The mission of Urban Peace is really to help save the lives of the next generation. People can change. It's not once a gang member, always a gang member.
Prevention, intervention, and violence interruption.
We're a nonprofit social justice organization.
My name is Fernando Rodriguez. Welcome back to Peace on Our Streets. This is a series exploring the work of peacemakers and the efforts on the front line to save lives in our communities. So we're speaking with one of the gang intervention legends in LA, Blinky Rodriguez. Has been doing work in the San Fernando Valley for over 35 years and has really helped put intervention on the map, not only here, but nationally and across the world. So it's really an honor to have him here. Pleasure to be here with you, Blinky. Thank you for taking the time to join.
Absolutely, Fernando. Thank you.
So let's get a little bit of history and background, Blinky. Some people know your story, but I'm sure there's others that don't. But why is this work, gang intervention work, so important to you? You've dedicated a big chunk of your life to it, and you've had a life even before that in the ring. And so I wanted to just learn more about that history and share with folks about how you transitioned to this work and why you've been doing it for so long.
All right, wonderful. Yeah. Well, I've always been about humanity. I've always been about people. Early on in my life, I was very fortunate. Although my mom raised 9 of us by herself in the city of San Fernando, I came across key people at key times in my life. I got one handful of mentors, from educators to martial art instructors, that seen something in me that I didn't see. And so from that, point on, I began to get into the martial arts genre. And the martial arts ultimately took me all over the world. Along with then my wife was 37 years. She's passed now, but so we became champions in the sport of kickboxing. So we went from the traditional karate, which is the art, to the sport of kickboxing. Her brother, Benny the Jet Yukitis, is also legendary. And we pioneered the sport unbeknownst to many, many, many people. I had the opportunity to be the very first live broadcast on CBS Sports Spectacular, Fernando, back when there was no cable. It was only the big three. There was no multimedia. There was CBS Sports Spectacular, NBC Sports World, and ABC Wide World Sports. And so it was a real privilege for me to be able to see the world with what they call power of the pen, and compete and start growing this sport called the martial arts that has always been embroiled and wrapped around with respect and humility and very traditional aspects of it. But then, after being involved with many little storefront karate dojos, strip malls with trophies in the window, my brother-in-law Benny and I opened up a huge facility. It was a bowling alley in Van Nuys, actually 14540 Friar Street in Van Nuys, California. And we opened up Benny the Jet Center. It was 14,000 square foot facility. It was replete with jacuzzi, steam room, sauna, cold plunge, Japanese baths, restaurant, sports medical facility upstairs. It had 22-foot ceilings on the board where you would do the bowling part. And back in there, we had weight room facilities. And we had bunks for students that would come from all over the world to do sabbaticals. And separate from that, we got involved with producing the fight shows. And so as a result, I've been doing broadcasts now for 30 years. And we're on every Thursday night on Prime Ticket, Fox Sports Prime Ticket. And it was a great time of my life, man. But then one night, I received a phone call about 11:30, and there's a young man on the other line, and he's saying, "Mr. Rodriguez, something happened to your son. Something happened to Sonny." And I was like, what are you talking about? Something happened to Sonny. He said he's at the Holy Cross Hospital. So my whole house was woken by me raising my voice, and we jumped in the car, and we all headed to the Holy Cross Hospital right there on Rinaldi. A lot of people that know the valley. And I had to go in with my wife to identify my son's body. They had no identification. And that's where this all started. But let me just also say this. There was always a heartbeat to serve community. Before that incident happened, that deep line of demarcation, I had been working with a lot of youth. We give scholarships out at our gym. We do a lot of different things for the community, exhibitions at the different schools. And I was able to also manage a young Mexican super heavyweight named Alex Garcia. He actually represented us in the World Games, the only Latino, Mexican-American descent. And he fought the great Teofilo Stevenson from Cuba. There was a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. And when I got him, his parole officer was calling me, and what are you doing wasting your time with Alex and his brother, local Steve? And I just said, look, this guy wants to train, and I'm going to train him. And I have him, and he shows up to the gym. I don't got to go looking for him. So I wanted to get that in because it's a condition of the heart. You know, when people have a condition that they want to help humanity, they want to be able to help people. But that venture to the Holy Cross was, oh my God, I can't articulate it in words. How many of our families, especialmente in the Latino community, have lost our children to this generational curse? And so I began to immediately launch, and it was a form of ministry, and I had the support of Victory Outreach and Church on the Way, which are two very different type of ministries. Jack Hayford and Sonny Argenzoni, the local pastor David Martinez. And so as time rolled on, you know, we had to go to the courts, and they had caught the 3 young men that murdered my son within 2 hours. And so when we went to court, that happened all in 1990. 1991, we go to court, and it was there and then, Fernando, that the great challenge was placed upon our shoulders to forgive. And I can tell you that I never grappled or wrestled harder in my life. In all the 56 professional fights I had, I'd never been in a fight like that. But the sovereignty of God came through, and he allowed us to forgive. There's more detail to it, but he allowed us to forgive these guys to their faces in the courtroom. And that was, I guess, the prerequisite of me entering to this world now called prevention and intervention. But there was no programs when we started this. And let me just say this, and we'll move on. That forgiveness was really the number one reason God took me to the neighborhood that killed my son to do a meeting with 76 gangs. I'm talking about Halloween Day, October 31st, 1994. For one meeting that turned into a meeting every Sunday for over a year. And we went from 56 killings to 2 in the Valle. And everybody had to stand up. City Council, Board of County Supervisors, the mayor, everybody. And you know the irony and the power of God? We never got raided one time. In fact, right from that date of October 31st, 93, February of 94, we did our very first sporting event with a couple of neighborhoods that were stone rivals in a tackle football game. We had about 300 heads there, man, and it was powerful. And since then, we've done over 200 sporting events here in the San Fernando Valley.
I've seen some of those videos on YouTube. You have them recorded.
Yeah, there's many. There's a lot of footage that's not been shown, but there's a lot that's been chronicled, and it's also been talked about. So yeah, so that was the beginning. Let's move on, Fernando.
Yeah, no, thank you, Blinky. I mean, it's a powerful story. You know, and I'm familiar with your story, but you know, every time I hear it, I always think about, you know, what it means to be a peacemaker and the power of forgiveness. It takes a lot of strength. So, you know, with getting involved in gang intervention, it's not easy work. You know, it's challenging. You know, there's a lot of relationships that need to be built on all sides, especially when you're dealing with, you know, with safety and saving people's lives, which you can't put a dollar amount on. You know, how have you seen intervention evolve, I think, over the years?
Well, yeah, you mentioned something about on the front end about, you know, relationship. And I think that is one of the most critical ingredients is to have, because the relationship that you need to grow and nurture so that you can have some semblance of trust and respect is again, exactly that, building a relationship, doing what you say, saying what you do, you know what I mean? And so whether you're you know, building a relationship with one of the homies or the whole generation of one family, being there when they need something. And then this is right on the very front end, because there wasn't a lot of services back then. And then it's relationships with all the other municipalities, always feeling that you had to be the advocate for this population of people that many people deemed as lepers, man. It's like, don't touch them. Oh, it's them. Matter of fact, he's talking to them and he's touching them. How about him? What is he? Who is he? Who is he? Does he have 1 foot in, 1 foot out? And I went through all of that, brother. And with a nickname like Blinky that my grandmother gave me when I was 2 years old, you know what I mean? I've been with 4 different mayors on different commissions, and every one of my placards said Blinky Rodriguez. No one knows me as William, but to this day, some people wonder, man. So I gotta clean it up by saying, when I fought, my cliche was, don't blink or you'll miss the knockout. But getting back to your question, Fernando, I can't, I don't want to overspeak, because we have a lot of work to do, but we've come a long way as a city. I think we've really built a lot of capacity, and especially for those that are going to come behind us. There's a lot of us that didn't start this with a paycheck. It was just with a heart full of passion and desire, man, to bind the spirit of murder and violence, just so that our mothers and our communities could sleep at night. I can remember, because I've been in many circles through the martial arts genre. I've taught David Lee Roth, I've taught judges, I've taught regular people, construction workers, people from all levels of the social and economic ladder. And when I would make comments like, it's hard for some mothers to sleep at night, people, they didn't understand. And I'd have to explain to them, when you hear the helicopter outside and your kid's not home, and you roll out of bed on your knees as a mother or a father saying, oh, Father God, bring my kid home tonight. That's something that if you don't experience, you don't understand it. And so that's a whole different thing than in Beverly Hills or Bel Air or any of those communities. I'm not putting nobody down, but it's 2 different worlds. And so again, I think that's what it took. That kind of commitment. The 24/7 started back then. Back then we didn't have notifications. We didn't have the dialogue we have going on with the cities now. We used to just race wherever we seen the helicopter. We'd get right there to the yellow tape by following the helicopter. And it took a long time to create the policy. It took a long time, but we're here, and there's so much to garner from all that's been built. It's an exciting time, at least from my perspective. Just want to continue pressing in.
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of words, that are thrown around. People talk about violence prevention, violence intervention, street outreach, violence interruption, and I think the language, is important. In LA, we're, one of the few cities that still uses the word gang intervention. What does gang intervention mean to you, and how does that differ from, say, gang prevention?
Well, I know there's some people that gang intervention, kind of like you said, it gets a little political. It's kind of, Fernando, like every couple of years there's new buzzwords, and sometimes I want to enter into particular meetings and say, look, by the way, if I use an old buzzword from a couple of years ago, don't get mad at me, because words are important, but we constantly are changing words. But we also all know that action speaks louder than words. So getting now to the question of prevention intervention, the word prevention means to prevent. So a lot of times when we're talking about intervention or violence interrupters, the discussion is really post something happened. In other words, we got to stop it now from continuing, when in reality, there's many of us out there doing the work that are preventing it from even happening, separate from how we've defined prevention. We've defined prevention, get them before, and that's a good thing. We need to have that. Turn the spigot off before they go down that road, absolutely. And all the other things that we need to surround youth with in order to keep them occupied. But let's not be mistaken. We as interventionists, we do prevention. We prevent, in the purest sense of the word, we prevent things from happening. If it's an issue with a guy and his girl, if it's a drug issue, We knock it down. There's times we've been right deep in the middle of it. I can remember being on Laurel Canyon and Mission Boulevard years ago, man. I'm not going to name the two neighborhoods, but they were just getting ready to jump off, man. It was on. There was probably a total of about 40 dudes in that gas station getting ready to get down. And we jumped off the cars, man. And Big D was with me, and we, hey. And then there was one guy in particular, Fernando. He had a big old shank in his hand, and he was moving towards a youngster. This guy was in his probably late 20s, and he was moving towards this youngster, and he was on a stick on him. I go, hey! And he looked at me, and it didn't happen. They all jumped in their cars. And remember, we were having meetings already. The dialogue was open, so that was a no-no. Anyhow, it didn't happen. And I guess that's the point I'm trying to make, is that absolutely we're interrupters. Absolutely we're interveners. Absolutely we're able to slow the flow and pump the brakes, and with all the different opportunities and all the different resources that we bring, including our heart and our souls. Because let me tell you, our gente, they know if we're for real or not for real. And I think that consistency and the continuity of time also speaks.
Yeah, definitely that consistency being out there. I remember, when I was we were with a young person, went to go see a judge out in Stillmore just to help him out and back him up, and Bobby was there with us, and the judge said, hey, send my best to Blinky, and so but you're there. I mean, it's consistent, and even the judges know you because they know you're there to support the community. Okay,
go ahead. No, please, Fernando.
So your organization, Champions in Service, can you maybe talk a little bit about Champions in Service, what you do? And then, I mean, it has a long history. How has it grown to where it's at today?
Well, we were communities, cities and schools initially, and back in '94. Just a couple of 2-3 years after that, the national office wanted to change it to communities and schools. So we were in communities and schools, and we branded that name for many, many, many years. But up until about 3 years ago, there was some shifting going on, and there was particular things we didn't agree with. So we went ahead and moved and became Champions in Service. Well, we're also now under the Leadership Foundation. But the question that you asked was, we've evolved in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? Obviously, let me just say this: there's people that can disagree with me, but there's only one way to deal with the streets, and that's deal with the streets. Again, back to relationship, back to doing what you say. You need a letter when your brother's going to the parole board, you write the letter. You know what I mean? The advocacy in the courtroom, the consultation to the family before they bury their kid, after they bury their kid, the ability to be there. Again, at the risk of sounding boastful, because I give God the glory for everything, Fernando, you know that, brother, on screen, off screen. But at the end of the day, 97 pro bono cemetery plots to mothers and fathers that don't have a clue how they're going to bury their kids, that are stuck. The infamous car wash, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we were blessed with these cemetery plots through prayer. So 97 cemetery plots at Valhalla Pierce Brothers Cemetery. We've been able to come alongside families, pre-burial, post-burial. Also lead them to the Victim of Violent Crime resource, which is $7,500. And I want to say this, that back in the day, sometimes the detectives wouldn't release the paperwork because the guy that got killed was a gang member, or was on parole, or was on probation. So we had to develop the methodology and really the relationship in the high places to be able to shake the tree loose, because our people were already suffering from the great loss of a child. Who's ready for that, Fernando? Just stop and think about that as a father. How can any father or mother be ready to bury their kids? And it becomes so cavalier, so callous, man. It's like, oh, it's just doing business as usual. No, I say no. Absolutely not. It's not normal. It will never be normal to bury our kids before we die. At the end of the day, you guys, we can get killed out there. And that's just putting it bluntly. No bulletproof vest, no gun, and just our word.
Where do you see intervention going in the next 5 years? Where would you like to see it go? And we know you're going to be a part of it, but if your vision and your wishes, where would you like to see the field go?
I would like to see the work without losing the spirit, without losing the passion, and not just getting caught up in data. I would like to see it become an industry standard of its own. I would like to see this work that we've been all blessed to do have the type of structure and infrastructure within the context of the municipalities, within the city, the county, the state, and the federal government, where these brave men and young women that put their lives on the line would have a pension plan, would have all the benefits that come with city workers. Think of all the money, all the resources that has been saved through this process. That's one. So yes, institutionalize the work. Two, continue to make sure that the prison pipeline is shut down. Right. Continue to remember that a lot of us parents, man, hey, listen, my 37 years, 25 of it was the SHU program in Pelican Bay. I know every route to get there. And in fact, I just took a ride up to Northern California, up above Fresno, with my son, who's home now, this weekend. And as we were driving, I could not help but remember all the drives and asking God to allow me to breathe light into him, life into him, vision into him, hope into him. They would give me a word that would resonate when he went back to that one man cell with no window on it. You know what I mean? And I even remind him, Fernando, if I can, when you get to Fraser Park, when you go over the other side, there's that steep downhill, you know, and it's really a highway patrol trap. But again, I was already heading down the hill, and I was praying out of, man, open my son's eyes, help him, Lord. And all of a sudden I hear a whoo, because I wasn't even looking in the mirror. I didn't even see the highway patrol. So he comes walking up to my window. I put it down, and he says, "What are you thinking about? You're going 106 miles an hour." Oh my God, but I had my mind was on my son. And I know there's a lot of parents out there. And I know there's a lot of families, Fernando, that have lost them to the prison system because the scales are not balanced. And that's what I'm looking forward to now, with the scales of justice being balanced, and not just for those who can afford justice, which is pathetic.
No, thank you for that. If say there's some young person out there that's considering getting involved in the intervention field, what advice would you have for that person?
Ask yourself why you want to do it. I think the most effective interventionists, peacemakers, are those that do it because their heart is calling them to do it, because they care about the family, they care about their family, they care about their parents, they care about making change and shift happen. You know what I mean? I think that's shit. It can't be a prerequisite. I know it can't be. You can't put that on a check off on an application.
Right.
But again, but ask yourself, is this what I want to do? Is this what I want to give my life to? Because it comes with a lot of challenges, and it comes with a lot of will and desire and perseverance, man, because I gotta say to you, you never get used to it when you see the howling cries of a mother, man, or when you're at the wake services, and you don't hear a lot of talk about that. People don't talk about no, that's what we're talking about, separate from all the wonderful opportunities we bring. That's the core. That is, again, I get it. We got to build community, because I know there's people saying that it's not just gang intervention. But we gotta stimulate the entire community. But I do want to say that the gang intervention and dealing with the violence, there's only one way to deal with that, and that's having those relationships with the right people. So again, any youngster out there coming up that's looking to make this a career, okay, God bless you, man. Step into it. There's plenty of mentors. There's plenty. It's grown along. It's come a long way. The work is exciting. It's exciting work. We're on the edge of the branch. You know what I mean? And we're meeting the needs of broken people, and we're saving lives. How much better can it get? With all the challenges and all the frustration, as we see the bureaucracies, man, maneuvering and shifting, and you know, different administrations coming in and out, and you got to have the wherewithal to endure. And then you have to have network, and you have to treasure your network, because network is currency. And so that kind of respect and trust, even from colleagues, you know what I mean? And, you know, the day of us having to be fighting and scraping, I'm trusting, is over. But, you know, we all know the tactics that have been implemented to keep everybody wrestling, grappling over that bone.
Right. No, that's you know, words of wisdom for that next generation. What any other messages that you'd like to share about the field of gang intervention?
You know, I want to talk a little about education.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not the education guy, but because I got married when I was 16 years old. You know what I mean? It was time to go to work, baby. You know what I mean? Trabajar, mijito, you know? But education's important. You know, no one in my family, my brother graduated from high school, my older brother, but nobody in my family that I can remember ever asked me, are you going to graduate? Do you want to graduate? Nobody. That question never crossed my ears. And so education is vital. Also to this work, we need young men and women that are educated. They got the heart, the emotion, the sentiment, within them, and with that knowledge that they're acquiring. The Bible says that people suffer for lack of knowledge, man. So that knowledge that you bring back to the neighborhood. Yeah, you can go ahead if you want to go to the stock market, or you want to go in. That's all. But we need that combination. I think it's critical now to move this work in a quantum leap forward, and it's perfect timing. I think the season's right, and I'm excited about that too. And thus that's why we've been training interns for 23 years. You know what I mean? And now they're all over the place, you guys. They're all over the place, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. I've seen it. I've seen people, and you know, it doesn't surprise me sometimes when I talk to folks that are leading things. Say, oh yeah, I interned at CIS, right? Whether they're at USC or UCLA or running their own nonprofit organization. You know, I think, you know, what you and Bobby have built out has really helped, you know, really push the work forward, and just young people from the community, which you know, takes a lot of, you know, longer term vision, you know, for what this can be. All right, Blinky, I just want to say thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate talking to you, getting that history. I'm sure, you know, there's more to talk about, but hey, we could do this again, you know, anytime. I think anytime we get on the phone, we have these good conversations. So I really want to thank you for your time, and thank you for the work that you've done. You know, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So, you know, thank you for being one of those giants.
Fernando, you and your family be blessed, man. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Blinky.